All right, everybody. We are officially recording. This is FairTV, Wednesday, September 15th, 7 p.m. Monthly meeting. And I believe the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Does that sound right to everybody?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Patrick, I'm just pulling up your agenda.
Yeah.
I
left the word agenda off there.
Sorry, apologies. I'm just looking for it right now.
It's all right. It starts with officers' reports, secretary's report. I guess I'm secretary, and thus the only thing to report is that Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry about that.
As secretary, item number 2 is officers' reports. Item A is secretary's report, as I believe I'm secretary. Is that correct or wrong?
Yes, you are secretary.
Acting secretary. So I sent the July minutes around, and somebody can make a motion that we would approve those at this point, I guess.
Okay, I make a motion.
Unless there's questions. Yeah.
Any questions on the minutes?
No.
No, I make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
Second.
All right, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, the motion, I believe it's, I'm working on the terminology here, but I believe the motion carries, right?
That's correct.
All right, we're getting somewhere here. Okay, so Patrick, why don't you take us through our agenda?
Number 3 would be standing reports, and that's the production manager's report, so that's to you, Jerry.
Is there anything from any of the other officers, the chair or the vice chair?
I have nothing.
Yeah, I guess
nothing to report.
Yeah. That would be under item 2, and I'm
here.
seeing batting out of order that I did past meetings. Item 4 is item 2. So, yeah, this is obviously our first go-through. So.
Okay, well, so I'll report. The only thing that happened was I received a call this month, a couple of days ago, and I reached out to Jerry. This was to, a request to record a meeting that was being held in the Sacred Heart Community Theater. It was being held on like a Monday or Tuesday. It was about crime, and it was with the youth and crime. And anyhow, we were, asked if FairTV could cover it, but it was only like, what, Jerry, like a couple of days in advance or a day in advance?
I did go and cover it, Alex.
You did? Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Well done.
Just went over and did one camera thing, but I did it.
Okay. Were you able to get audio and everything?
Yeah, I mean, the theater is fantastic. I mean, I was in there when it was, Festival of Vermin and whatnot, but they really brought it back wonderfully. They have speakers all over the place. I just mic'd a speaker, and bing, bang, boom, I had audio. So I just went over, and like I say, I did a one-camera thing. The piece was called Juvenile Crime, a Public Forum. It was moderated by Laura Denman, Republican State Representative. There weren't any other elected officials that spoke. It was all Gary McNamara who used to be the chief of police here. He's now chief executive of public safety and government affairs at SHU. There were the town's police chief, Robert Calamaris, a couple of detectives, 2 attorneys from the state's attorney's office, and a public defender. It didn't fall into the category of like, well, we're going to, we didn't get any political stuff, so sometimes that gets dicey because people start pointing fingers and stuff, but that didn't happen, so it's on the air. I shot it in 1080, and I put it up on our our VOD site. Looks real good, but cooking 1080 down to 720, it gets a little muddy. but that's all you can do. And I also bring this up in relation to item number 3 on my report, but I'll get to that later. In any case, I did it, shot it, posted it, done.
That's great.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, so I had gotten this call, and it was last minute, and I think there's two things I'd just like to bring up here. Like, number one, with respect to Jerry and, his managing of, like, all the time and the efforts that go into FairTV production and, when it's possible to try to make something happen and when it's not. And so, to be respectful of Jerry, I think you said you'd like a week in advance notice or something along that line. Is that accurate?
A 2-week window, Alex, because actually I really can't do anything extra without confirmation from either the chair or the committee in general. I do things in the past, and I've always brought them to Stuart. And, they aren't that often. He has green-lighted them in the past. We meet once a month. So sometimes, well, actually more. They don't really time out the requests in relation to our meeting. So usually that is what happens if it's something that we, seems worthy of doing into our parameters.
Okay. Well, then the next thing that's important to understand for all of us is, like, there's an important part of the FairTV stuff that there's nothing politically motivated on FairTV. Is that accurate, Jerry?
We can enter into that stream, but it has to have two sides to it. We can't just and this is usually in the discussion of legislation. But if a meeting if some kind of event is put together and it's, only one side of the fence, then usually, and I actually explained this to Laura's person, PR person. I said, look, we are obligated to have both sides of the fence. So if this is, some sort of, and I said, and I don't believe this event that you're doing from what it's being described as, and also the panel that was brought together, did not seem to where it was going to wander into that territory. But it can happen. A few years back, Tony Wang convinced me to go up and do something at SHU. Halfway through it was like, dumb. I don't want to get into it, but I didn't run it because it just turned into a, weirdness, at least politically. We cover stuff in meetings all the time, about the fill pile and things like that. And one side, people pointing fingers at each other or whatever. But that's in a meeting, and that's all fair game. But extra events, if it's a political conversation, I look to see that there's both sides represented, and if so, I'll cover it. We do the legal with voters debates, things like that, and it is what it is. We were not there we're there for the content. You know what I mean? Not the politics. But
you'd be hard pressed to find a group saying it was an defund the police group, but I get what you're saying.
What, the group that was there, this thing, the crime thing?
Yeah, it would be hard pressed to say that was political. That was a good thing. It should be put up so that other people that couldn't make it can see that forum. That'd be great.
The one takeaway from the situation was the statistical information was weak. They didn't have any handouts or anything like that said what they were exploring was juvenile crime, which there is, and we're not talking about toilet paper or even, goofy things that kids here in Fairfield do, drink on the beach or whatever. This is more like hardcore crime. And the only thing, and throughout the course of the conversation, people, am I still there? Hello?
Yeah, we're all here.
We still hear you.
My phone went blank. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much time on this, but through the course of the conversation, like the state's attorneys, they talked about older kids influencing younger kids, that in fact there is truly some sociopathic behavior. They have a different term for kids under 18. There was a public defender there as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. And the public defender sort of stood up as the guy who said, well, it's true, this stuff happens, but there's deeper and broader reasoning and conditions and motivators and whatnot. And with these younger kids, they lack supervision or whatever. There's issues at home. And also the attorneys, there are diversionary kids where they can do stuff and they don't have to do time. But the police feel hamstrung because they are limited by the law. And a lot of kids under, I think, 15 basically walk, and sometimes these kids do some real serious stuff, guns, murder, stuff like that, which leads me to believe of a deeper character flaw that probably, if anybody examines the school system, there's no mental health, there's guidance counselors, but, kids get lost and whatever. So I don't want to go on and on about it. The conversation is considered an ongoing.
Listen, I think it's an important topic. I think that discussion here is so much I think what's important for us to sort of understand and to define this topic of okay, what's acceptable outside of the realm of your typical meeting to have on FairTV and what's not. And how do we define when somebody has a request? How do we define is this going to cross the boundary of the political realm, or is it just hey, this is just real wholesome I don't know, wholesome might not be the right word, but is this real content that it just deserves to be heard for some reason,
Yeah.
So all right, that's something I think we all need to just understand it, and Jerry, listen, you have the temperature of what is happening on the ground because you're at all of these meetings. So, if something doesn't smell right from the perspective of it shouldn't be on FairTV, you can help us understand that call. It's quite I appreciate it,
No, I appreciate that. Like I said, I'll go and shoot something, but if it goes sideways, I'm not running it. I'll tell you, I'll bring it to you guys. I'll put out a file somewhere private that you can look at if I really think it's edgy or not quite, in the game. But, no, this is a very important topic. I don't really, like I said, I would have liked to have seen more statistical information based upon the energy of their perspective. I guess any additional serious crime is serious, but one of the people that did public comment, he said, well, I looked at Hartford, and last year was 20 incidences, and this year it's 22. That's not really huge, But like I said, I don't want to belabor this. I think the topic is viable. It didn't fall into the where they were pointing fingers at one side or the other politically, and if anything, it could get a conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically.
All right. Well, cool. Well, listen, thank you. So I think the idea here is, look, Jerry, if you do come across something that doesn't feel right to you and you want to pass it off to us to sort of deliberate on that, please, by all means, feel free. Okay?
Well, if they give me enough time, I'm more than happy to. I have to admit, some people are a little crafty. They sneak up on you.
Right.
All right. Well, so let's move on. Let's jump in.
Here's something with a bit more lead time. Yeah, here's item number, that can all go under number 5, unfinished and ongoing business. Moving to number 6, new business. Alex wanted me to put into the agenda so that we're now discussing feasibility of facilitating Zoom meetings and hosting all of and archiving all of the townwide meetings, which I guess Alex and Jerry have spoken about. Now we have it coming into the meeting. So with that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just, that's not my report, but it's, it's probably important to understand how we approach these things.
Well, I think the first thing that, like, you know, look, we're all kind of struggling to understand is what is the what exactly does the Zoom room entail? Does it entail the ATEM Mini and a computer? Does it entail somebody running it? What are other towns doing? You know?
Yeah. Well, do we want to finish my manager's report or?
Yeah. Sorry. Go right ahead, please.
Just basically, I sent everybody my monthly manager's report. I hope I know I'm wordy. Forgive me. I have a disease. But I hope everybody read it. If there's any questions about what you saw in the first two items, as far as in-person meetings and the grant, we received the grant. We split it in. We annually split it into the two accounts that we manage, government and education. There is one thing about it, though, in relation to what's coming up in this is a big change, this Zoom room thing. But I'm waiting to see what actually happens before I spend this money, or at least I have a little time. I am obligated to spend it before the end of the year, and I have to report on those expenditures to the Cable Advisory Council, where we get the money from. So I'm hoping that in the next Monday, the Board of Selectmen are going to discuss the distribution of the federal money. And on, when is it? I think it's Tuesday, the Board of Finance is going to meet and speak specifically about it. We're kind of down at the end of the list. They have, you know, they want to spend money on paving and this, that, the other thing. But the Zoom room is part of their expenditure plan. So depending on what they decide to do, you know, they could be by late October, if they're going to follow through on the Zoom room, they could be, you know, signing contracts and guys coming in and running cable and doing whatever they do to set it up in the various locations. So, but it's still.
So here's the big question, right, Jerry? And like, so, and I apologize, like, so here's the big question, right? Is with the quote-unquote Zoom room, right? I mean, there's still a computer, and all of the, if anybody wants to actually decently hear what's being discussed, it has to be piped in via audio, period.
Yep.
And, you know, and then, like, as I'm looking at, you know, when I looked at the Darien one that you sent over, I mean, the picture isn't very good at all, but there are several different angles that are happening, which tells me that there's more than one camera piped into this Zoom system.
Well, these, from what I understood at this meeting they had over in Ludlow, which is item number 3, the cameras are kind of AI. They have more than one camera inside the housing, and it tracks the you know, who's ever speaking. Now, as we know with WebEx, if somebody's eating potato chips, they're the ones who's going to be on camera. But these are in live meeting rooms. And also, people will be participating, you know, virtually. And also, I think I mentioned in relation to your comment about the picture quality, the Vimeo piece that I sent, I had the link on, I think that is actually a copy of what they have to put out to the cable companies, which is 720 by 480, and it is cooked down from 1080. What you run on the internet or on a web stream can be 1080, which is a much better visual experience, even though I hate the, you know, camera shot down people's, you know, foreheads and noses. But that could very well be the camera placement. I've said from the very beginning when I was contacted about this that it would be great if they could hang them as low as possible. But I'm not in charge and of the Zoom people, and really it's the Board of Ed that's driving this. All the setups are going to be in school buildings except for town halls. Like there's going to be a split room over at the Board of Ed, so they'll be able to do 2 meetings if they wanted to. They're going to set up a room, at least one room at Ludlow, and then there's a room planned for the first floor meeting room in Sullivan Hall. Now, Greg Harris was there, and he's all excited about it because, he wants to use it too, which, I guess that's part of the game plan, and it's not for FairTV. I mean, we don't have any kind of proprietary hand in them. We are an ancillary element. And I was thinking about this the other day. If they do put it in the room, if they do go this route, we don't have to be in these rooms. We could set it up. I could set it up in, if I could find a room in Sullivan Hall and cover everything via the laptop, run it through one of the TriCasters, lay in the lower thirds, probably get a much better conversion to 720 by 480 and send that out to the cable stations, and then we can I can't record in both 1080 and 720, but there is the possibility that I can figure out how to split out and go to the web. Now, our TriCasters do have that capability, but we've never utilized it. Like we can line into YouTube or whatever via the TriCasters. But I don't know if it's a 1080 signal. It might be. I got because we've never done it, and I'm not familiar with that functionality. But it's easily determined. The other thing is with the grant money, I got the grant money based on buying, and Alex will know about this, an ATM configuration, which included a couple little portable cameras, a laptop, this ATM device, and we could just plug that into the wall and send it, content directly to YouTube. Although they don't necessarily use graphics, but it's a secondary feature and it's a little clunky. It doesn't really allow you to set up an agenda in advance if the agenda is.
Yeah, I think that also. I mean, I think ultimately right now, at least to get started, it has to be like, man, somebody's going to have, even if there are automated systems in place or what you just described, where you can be kind of in one room and kind of managing and all the other stuff, which I think is a brilliant option. That's the ideal, but I do think everything kind of needs to, for the moment, it can't, until we get that settled, it can't just go straight to YouTube or whatever. It just has to be.
Oh, no, we'll do our regular thing, and then as it matures, we'll figure something, we'll see how it formats out, But it's initially...
But the stuff that, the obvious stuff, like, and look, the big question is, well, where are the upfront investment costs and where's the cost savings, right? So, at first it's going to be some sort of equipment or whatever, figuring it out, getting it all set up. But then the savings are that, you don't have to have someone in each room running the meeting and setting everything up and having all of the equipment moved over from one place to the other all the time, right?
No, we can centralize it. Yep.
Right. And then the next piece I would just say is, listen, I think lower thirds are wonderful, but not at the expense of the expense, So,
we've already set up to do all that with our existing equipment. Like I said, we just take a laptop feed and run it in through the TriCaster as a source, and then just, do like what we already do, follow the meeting and just add the lower thirds. It's not a big deal. There's no additional cost in that regard. And then we pitch it out to our various platforms.
All right, cool. Well, I think we just need to boil down with somebody. So this is where I think this all lands, is like somebody needs to talk to, the folks driving this and, say, okay, we just need to know what is it you want to accomplish, and let's figure out how to, let's get a fit, let's just get it going. Let's try one, They
want us to be a part of the meetings that we already cover in relation to this format. In Now, they're planning on bringing in another 50 meeting bodies, but they will mostly be done with audio, no video. They'll be conference calls. And we really won't, I mean, I don't know how we're going to, I don't even know if we're, I don't know how that's going to happen. And the thing I did suggest to them was that they could, I mean, I don't know, I've never known people on YouTube to just do audio only, But theoretically, if we bought, if they were to get ATM devices on their own, they could set up three internet, like YouTube channels, and, cover these audio meetings in that fashion, and people could listen to them on the internet, There wouldn't necessarily be a FairTV platform. But they would get they're just trying to create more transparency. That's the whole pitch. So all the little boards, they always throw out the Shellfish Commission as like, the non-important board, but nonetheless, there's a lot of little boards that meet all over town, and what they want to do is consolidate all that, provide a teleconference structure, and people can listen in either by just joining the Zoom, or if they wanted to publish it, they could create an interface that would put them on the internet, or maybe a podcast. I don't know, something like that. But that's really not our concern at the moment. We may be asked perhaps to be an archiving entity for all of it, because we already sort of do that with the other content. So we do have some experience and whatnot. But, and also the idea of getting it out beyond the Zoom room into a more accessible or, public kind of fashion. So it's up for discussion. And this is where, I do attend these meetings, but, Fair TV picking up 55 extra meetings, no matter what they are, that we have to manage in some way, we should be putting in for a bump in our budget. But, again, we are not a town body, not a town department. We're an NGO kind of thing, and they could, it's up to them, how they want us to be a part of it. I know they do want us to continue with the Board of Ed, Board of Finance, CPC, BOE.
Okay, well, so what are the next steps, Jerry? What do you suggest we do, right? Like as of right now, like what can we do to sort of help?
I would recommend that somebody, listen in. I mean, we'll be covering the Board of Selected meeting on Monday. We'll also be covering the Board of Finance meeting. I believe it's Tuesday. And maybe somebody should just watch them. And I mean, they aren't going to be talking about this deal right away, but they will be talking about it and what they figured out or what they found out. And at that point, there might be something for the commission to opine on.
Okay. Well, listen, I mean, if you need one of us to attend a specific meeting, I mean, again, you have like your ear to the ground much more so than I do anyway. So if there's a meeting that's coming up, please shoot us all a note so that one of us can go there, whoever's available.
The Board of Selectmen is at 4 o'clock on Monday, and the Board of Finance is at 7:30 on Tuesday. And
well, are they specifically, and they're specifically discussing the Zoom room?
We've got a few other items on the agenda, but this ARPA item is a big item on their agenda. And the Board of Finance is just going to be talking about this because they're the Board of Finance, and $24 million has to have their imprimatur on it.
Okay. So, okay, well, so I might suggest that we all try to figure out right now who of us can attend these meetings, assuming these things are, in fact, if they're on the agenda,
Right.
How long do these meetings go for typically, Jerry?
The Board of Finance meetings are epic marathon events, Alex. That's what I'm doing.
I mean, they're in depth. I mean, the Board of Selectmen.
With that said, I'm happy to call Jack Castani and ask him what he's, and so forth.
Well, yeah, I guess that the big question is that's fine, and I'm sure they're talking about a lot of important stuff. But is there a way that one of us can, pipe in at the right moment to hear what they have to say? And then the next question is, are these meetings, is there opportunity in each of these items for the public or for, commissioners who are, representing FairTV, for example?
If you want to be on their public comment list, you've got to text Jim Brown, who's the chair, that you want to be, you want to comment in public comment.
Okay, I don't really necessarily want to comment in public comment. I just want to know what they want to do. So
we can figure that out. We can certainly start to try to figure that out anyway.
All right.
We can all get the agendas, take a look at that, and then pay attention to what's happening.
Like Mark said, looking at the other agendas. Agreed. Great idea.
Yeah, I think all of us can agree that if we don't have to absolutely be at a marathon meeting, given all of our busy lives and schedules, I think that would be great. So, what is in the public comment? I mean, is that who we are? I'm just learning here, but is that who we are in the mix of this? We're just sort of public comment. I mean, we're running the commission.
We're not a town department, and we would unless we're invited initially to be at the meeting, which you may be. Somebody may be. I mean, they know that I'm going to be running the meeting, so I'm there already. But I have to admit, it is a little weird for me. But I'll do it. But weird for you to be running the meeting. Do you mean weird for you to be running the meeting and being the public comment? Well, a little bit. But I mean,
I'm literally just trying to isolate what's weird, and I get that. And I appreciate that, and I don't think that you should be put in a weird position. Look, and with respect to what they want to do, I think it's just sort of, I don't know what everybody thinks here, but my feeling is, if they want to have a Zoom room and they want to have another or whatever, and they want FairTV to get involved and to do X amount of time, either archiving all of these things or Zoom rooming all of them. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but they have to have the budget to do it, because I know from just, the sheer time it takes. You give me one file, okay? If you give me one meeting file, you said, Alex, put this up on the web, archive it, make it linked to here and there. It's going to take a little bit of time. And Jerry's doing this every week, and I'm sure he's got it streamlined, but that's time. It's time and effort, and therefore it's going to need budget to do that. And so, would you agree with that, Jerry?
Oh yeah, but again, I think I want to wait and see, because I know that they haven't really thought this out as to where we're even talking about it. I mean, they and the other side of it too is I'm going to find out if they're actually going to vote out. I know that the Board of Selectmen is going to possibly have a vote. I don't know if the Board of Finance is going to have a vote, but I'm sensing they might, and I can ask tomorrow, and I'll let everybody know if the Board of Finance will be voting on this stuff. Because if that is the case, then somebody should be present from, the committee. The commission.
Okay.
But if
so
not,
so again, I just want to understand and help me understand with all of your experience with all the meetings. Let's say one of us shows up at this meeting that they are going to vote on. I don't know what. What are they going to vote on? Hosting more meetings, giving more money to FairTV to go on vacations. What are they going to vote on potentially?
No, they're going to. I know at the last meeting that the first selectwoman had at Ludlow, she tasked the operations director, Mr. Papa George from the school district, and Dave Kelly from the IT to work out what the Zoom room costs were going to be. No one has come to me and said, look, this is exactly, the only person I've talked to about this is Jared Schmidt, who is the chief financial officer, and he expressed specifically that they wanted FairTV to continue handling in our way the 5 primary town meetings, but with this Zoom room feature sort of reconfiguring how we do that. And I said fine, and the more I learned about it, like I said, I came to the idea that, hey, we don't really, if they're going to do that, the only reason we would want to be in the room is if we wanted to run a separate camera that would probably give a little better camera frame structure for the viewer. But on the other side of it, that's cumbersome. That would, it doesn't change. I still have to have a guy come in and do it. But they want, their catchphrase is set it and forget it. They want a format with this Zoom thing that all the chairman of any body has to do is hit the go button, and then it's happening. Whatever FairTV does is our problem or consideration, or it's our whatever. They don't really consider so much other than getting out to the platforms that we manage, anything more than that as far as FairTV. So my feeling is a manager and watching the money and whatnot. Our best option is yes, to just set it up offsite, utilize the Zoom room feed, and do what we do to enhance that structure. And then we put it out on the cable, we put it on our video on demand site, and we put it on our web stream live. And that's what we'll continue to do. Now, if they want us to do more than that, like let's say they start doing it and they don't really like how it works, then maybe we'll be invited back into the room, you know what I mean, officially, as opposed to just showing up. I mean, last night we had a Board of Ed meeting. They told me that I could get in the room at 6:30, that there was an executive session in another room. I get there at 6:30. They're having the executive session in the room I'm supposed to be setting up in. What do? It really crushed our setup, and last night as well. We've been wanting to test running the TPZ live and the BOE live at the same time, different channels, and we had problems at the BOE with the network and so on, and it just got to the point when the meeting was about to start, and we had to solve the issues. So we recorded it, and it's on the air today, but we didn't do a live format. But I'm trying to illustrate that they don't necessarily include, they didn't call me up and say, oh, Jerry, by the way, we're going to meet in the room at 6:30. I was told by the superintendent's assistant deputy that we could do this. And I got there and we couldn't. So, I mean, that's basically...
That sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. I mean, we put it together.
That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
But...
would if we had like a Zoom room kind of set up installed, it would be like, yeah, do whatever you want. All we have to do is click a couple buttons and we're live, right?
Right. Easy peasy. We're live and we're doing what we do with the agenda.
Bang bang. Yeah.
Hey Jerry, what in your opinion? So I think the upside of it, of formatting, if Zoom room means we're going to just aim for sake of argument, just for this conversation, if we're going to do all of the same 5 meetings a week or whatever it is, 5 meetings that are always being broadcast that you've referenced a couple times, and those are all going to be set up in a Zoom room, and what's the downside in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as long as we get a good, like I say, it's basically a feed from a laptop, and the only downside is I can't keep setting up all the time in the first meeting room. You certainly can't run like a board of ed. I can't run multiple setups out of that room. I mean, I've been fortunate for all these months that they haven't been having that many meetings. Sometimes during the day there's people in there, and I need to get in there to maybe lay up the agenda or something. But I can wait. I can always figure it out.
Why not just like be proactive? And again, I'm just asking questions here, but why not just be proactive and like, why don't you just set up a Zoom room for a meeting and do one? I mean, what's the downside? Sounds like.
I mean, no, they're going to do that. They're not just going to do it. They're not going to do a test. They're going to do it. So these 3 or 4 locations will be updated in this fashion, and that is going to happen. I'm pretty sure.
So what are we waiting for?
Huh?
Is there anything we can do to help you facilitate this? I mean, aside going to a marathon meeting and asking, I don't know what questions, what for. If they want to do it, we just just shift the money. I mean, ultimately it's a broadcast, so who cares how it's done? It's just let's get it done.
What do they do other than the 5 meetings? Do they want us to be the librarian? You know what I mean? Or do they want us to get all this stuff on the VOD site so people can have access to it, as opposed to with the WebEx. There's a site in town. You can go to the various board sites and you can find their WebEx recording of their meetings, which is cumbersome for the general public. What FairTV could do, if that's what they want, is we can bring it all into when I first started talking about this, I suggested, why don't you set up 3 YouTube stations? You can do 9 meetings a week into each one of those things. You'll get coverage for all 50 meetings or whatever per month, and it'll be a place where this is all archived, almost en route, as opposed to, collecting it and transferring it and, reformatting it or whatever. And, I didn't get any feedback on that necessarily, but that's up to them. What do they want to do? And that's how we can help them. We can help them set up the YouTube channels. We can do the administrative work of the library, so to speak. And I'm not going to go back and re-edit them, though. I'm not going to go back and lay in lower thirds like 50 meetings. We don't have the budget.
Yeah, no, I think any of that stuff just boils down to, like, somebody's got to pay for, the time. But I'm thinking about this, and, look, I've learned some stuff tonight, which I I hope everybody has. I mean, I'm just kind of like gaining a little insight. But if it's the town that is going to decide what they want, that's fine. I have no issue with that. It's just a matter of us figuring out the most efficient way to make it happen. And I like the idea of what you mentioned of, look, if there's going to be a gazillion meetings, and they want, them all archived in one place, just let them be archived in one place in chronological order and, updated and labeled, and, you want to go, and they're just all in one place. I don't think that it's, if people do want to go back and see stuff from the past, they can just scroll back and be like, okay, on such and such a date, Board of Education meeting, Board of Finance meeting, Board of Selectmen meeting, whatever.
I don't know if anybody's noticed, but over the summer, we put every single meeting that FairTV has recorded in the past 11 years on the government video on demand site and on the education on demand site. So you can go online, go to FairTV video on demand, education or government locations, and you can see meetings from 2012. That's happening right now. We did that this summer.
That's awesome. So, I think Pardon? Sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
The town actually paid for this because it was a request from the first selectwoman that they want, again, transparency, and that's fine. But 2 interns that they paid did a pretty good job. I mean, it's not pretty, but it is functionary. It does the job. and they're all in separate playlists, for 2018, 2017, and the various boards, Board of Five, so on and so forth. So, with a little looking, you can find whatever meeting you see. Now, that may not be every single meeting because, sometimes we miss the meeting or whatever, but not often. But I think they transferred about, 1,500 meetings at least. And
that's a lot.
That's a lot. But they were all, we already had, just so you understand, we already had an archive set up over at the library. So, and I started archiving the meetings on our YouTube sites 2 years ago. So all they really did was take the well, not all, but what they did was they accessed the archive in the library and then just transferred all that content to YouTube. It was, it was work. And
right, but now the system's in place, and so I just think that, right? So, you've got all this stuff there. It seems like it would be the natural place to just continue putting everything, yeah?
Well, I know about, the 50 other boards, and especially if they're just audio, we can't really run them on FairTV cable. I think it's probably more effective if they wanted to, we took the time and set up, like I say, at least one or two YouTube stations that handle the ancillary boards of Fairfield, so to speak. And, they'd all be audio files. I believe that's what's going to happen. Now, there may be a couple of meetings that they might want to have video as a part of it. But at the moment, the word from the First Selectman's office is audio. And I believe that's also coming from the school, from the operations of the school district. Again, keep in mind, they're the ones, the school district is the main driver on this. And the First Selectman likes the idea and wants to, push it forward, too.
All right. Well, look, I think there's some things to figure out here. But for me, personally, I think that, if FairTV is covering a bunch of meetings and then somebody's sending audio of a whole bunch of meetings, I just see it would be easy enough to have it all set in one. It would take time and it would take a little budget, but I think it would be easy enough to have everything all in one place.
Yeah, it should all go through one aggregator, so to speak,
Yeah. And if that's going to be FairTV, it's fair to say that it's fair to say it's going to take a little budget for somebody to be handling that.
Right. I would not approach this without a conversation about budget. That's for sure.
Right. So okay, and then finally, if these Zoom rooms, I just honestly, Jerry, I think you should just set up a Zoom room and run a meeting like it. And it can go simultaneously to Zoom and live on FairTV. If that particular meeting is supposed to, or maybe pick one that wouldn't go live on FairTV. And Zoom it. And make it, a Zoom room-esque meeting. I think you should run it. I think it'd be cool if it's not too cumbersome to run a test.
Well, the thing is it's the hardware that is the difference between what we do when we go and set up cameras and whatnot. The thing is I can't necessarily affect a Zoom room, at least not that I know of, with our production equipment. We have to, I think what would have to happen is just a bunch of people on their phones do a Zoom meeting and we interface with it with a laptop and run it through our system. That would be the closest and the cheapest way to do that, the easiest. And, but we do that already with WebEx. It's basically what we do with WebEx already. So it's not like we haven't really kind of tested it. This Zoom room thing is more the addition of these tag cameras with multiple cameras within them that zip, pan, tilt, zoom based upon who's speaking. Like if somebody's speaking, and then that's usually the wide shot, and then if they're speaking for a longer amount of time, they're programmed to push in. So you get like a two-shot. At least that's what I understand. And I actually saw that the Gary N.
Yeah, I think that's fine. But what I'm suggesting is like, you know, we don't have that technology now, but we could simulate it with people, right?
Well, again, Alex, we're already doing that with WebEx. It's just a different name, you know.
Well, so then what? Look, I'm getting a little confused, but I think like there's some things to figure out, and it all boils down to just like what does the town want to do, and I think that we should just let them run with that and say, listen, we're here to support you. You tell us what you want to do. We'll tell you the budget implications, and then if you want to change the budget in order to match like you know what you want to do, we're happy to make it happen. You know,
that's basically my position as well, actually.
So okay, so then who in the town do we talk to like find the identifying like criteria of what they want to do so that we can come back to them officially and say, this is what it's going to cost. Now you can go vote on it, and we don't need to be in a marathon meeting for that.
Well, I think right now it's about how much it costs, not so much like how are we going to break it out, how are we going to manage it or structure it. I think the first part is, and again, this may come up. I mean, you know, with the Board of Finance, they're going to, when it gets to this part, they're going to say, well, Jerry, what do you and I'll tell them what, you know, we've talked about here, and I'm glad that's why we're having this discussion.
Well, again, I don't want you to be in an odd position, but I mean, like, I think would you guys say it's in this is open for discussion, but would you guys, and Jerry, your input is essential here, okay? But would it be fair to say, listen, FairTV is doing what it does now with the budget that it has now. If you want to change that budget, or if we're going to allocate some money to do more, we need to know exactly what you want to do. We need to run a test on it, which is going to take a little money, and then we need to, you know, tell you, okay, well, here's how it's going to work, and here's how much money it's going to take.
Well, again, and I'm going to mention it again. We already sort of do this already with the WebEx. It's really the hardware that creates the Zoom room. The Zoom call is like the WebEx call. Now, I don't have the hardware to simulate a Zoom room, other than I could set up some cameras and follow the meeting around, but it's more like what we do when we do a live meeting in person, which is fine. But the Zoom room is a hardware concept that they interface with the Zoom virtual format. So we would really have to wait.
It's only unless until they make a decision to do something on that, correct?
Exactly, and then do it. You know, I mean, but I don't see any more issues with, again, lining in the Zoom room platform in the same fashion that we bring in a WebEx meeting. It's just a little different camera structure. The audio is mounted in the ceiling. Now, the audio wasn't terrible on those samples from Darien, but, you know, depending
feasibility-wise, Jerry, you could do it, though, I guess, is the bottom line. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, really, it just depends on how much they want us to do.
And that's going to be at their behest when they decide, I suppose. Nick Ace is on the Board of Ed. I can talk to Nick as well. He's my neighbor.
That's how government works, you know, but
we'll see.
I don't think handling the 5 meetings that we already handle in the fashion that we have been handling them through the pandemic and the virtual structure is going to be that much different. Basically, it's just going to be different cameras, you know, a different perspective. I mean, I'm not necessarily against it, because I've seen a lot of these WebExes where people, you know, you see people's hair talking, so to speak, because they never frame the phone right, or, you know, or whatever. It took me. I mean, I send out notes all the time. Please adjust your hip. You know, it's like, I don't know what the problem is.
Well, as we move on, people slowly get it. Are we going to be able to meet in person anytime soon, Alex? What do you think?
Well, they just sent out that meeting thing that said don't meet in person, didn't they?
Oh, I missed that.
Well,
that was in the,
There's nothing really stopping you guys or us from hey, meet me at the Circle Diner. You know what I mean? There's nothing. So
I'd be down. I think I'd be fine. Look, we can have a conference call in person.
Yeah.
And but it'd be great to meet and great to just talk some of this stuff out. But I mean,
let's do that next month, maybe.
Look, listen. I mean, with all of this, there's a lot to it because there's a lot of long meetings and budgets and things that go into it that it's going to be tough for us to attend, right? But I think that my goal here is to make sure that Jerry is supported and in his ability to do his job effectively. And definitely. I think Jerry does a great job. It's not easy, and it's a lot to handle and a lot to manage. A lot of people that are coming to him, when they have questions or things regarding FairTV. When it boils down to this whole thing, and we go and somebody says, okay, well, FairTV, we want you to do this, and then that's where we can come in and say, that's fine, but we're going to have to, change what you see or what we're filming or what's being captured if the budget's not there. So it's just a,
right.
It's a trade-off, ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, again, at the moment, as far as they understand it, they want us to continue within this format with the 5 meetings that we've already been doing. The ancillary meetings, they haven't really discussed with me as far as archiving specifically or whatever, but I want to I brought this up because if they do, we've talked about it, and as Alex has put forward, sure, just make sure, I'll put together a budget and, here you go, give us a bump, or whatever. And that's basically because I'm willing to roll with it. This is evolution. I don't really see it as, a bad thing. I mean, in the sense of town meetings, I mean, this is the evolution. And we're just part of it.
I agree.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jerry. That's a lot of info, and we've dug in more, I think, on that stuff tonight than I think we ever have.
Talk about, this was not on the agenda, but if we evolve into this, we're going to have about $20,000 worth of cameras that we aren't going to be using anymore. And I'd like to use them. And I had the opportunity to speak with Anthony Calabrese today from the Parks and Rec. And I said to him, well, the Parks and Rec never thought about doing a show, a monthly or whatever kind of show about Parks and Rec. His eyes lit up, big time. Great idea, which it is, I think, actually. But I mean, the bottom line is I would help him. FairTV could help him with the equipment. We could maybe find a producer for him. We might pay for the first production, whatever, to get it started. But they would have to budget for the labor, and because we've got all the parts. We've got a green screen. We've got a production device, a TriCaster that we can put to work. I've got 6 remote PZT cameras that are like $2,400 a piece. I got 5 Sony cameras, and in the broad that they're prosumers, but they're good cameras and they work pretty good. And they all work with SD cards or whatever. So I don't really like the idea of just putting them all in a box and having them sitting around. So I'm of the mindset that if we can create this additional type content, something like that, we could run on the E channel. It's not out of the question. We run movies and other things on YouTube. So, and we could run it on the government channel too. The Parks and Rec is a town department. And maybe there's other departments that might be interested every once in a while. But, I wanted to throw that out there because, like I said, it would really be a shame to just put these things in a box.
Well, I think it would be awesome, but I guess it takes budget for that stuff, right?
Right, exactly. And like I said, the thing is if we can, again, I have a little room in my budget, not a ton, to maybe get a couple of programs in a pilot kind of sense, that maybe could, wet the money people's, the town's money guy, a little bit. I mean, it's good for the town. It's not a bad thing,
Well, let me throw this out there. So in my own work, I find it like really valuable when somebody comes to me and they have some sort of idea. But the first thing I say is, well, let's just do one, and let's see how it goes, and see what we learn, and see if we like it.
Okay, Anthony, I'm more than willing to do one. You think about what you want to do, and we'll plan it out. You know what I mean? I mean, we could have a program from the museum if we wanted to do it. Although the museum likes to, they have a participation kind of thing where, people pay to get in and they pay to hear authors speak and stuff like that. And the authors don't always want to be recorded. I don't necessarily know. Maybe it's a small thing where they just do it on camera kind of line up or something about what's happening at the museum. But still in all, it's an element that's part of the town. And the town has, and the citizens have an interest in, and therefore could provide, a service to the community. And that's the way I kind of see it. But I don't want to extend this conversation beyond the immediate thing with the Zoom room and what that's about. But if this does prevail and we go along doing it, we're going to be, I've got a room full of gear down in a basement, and none of it's junk.
Duly noted.
So this leads us into like a conversation that, or a discussion, that boils down to like the ordinance of FairTV. And there was, before my time, there was talk of trying to change that ordinance so that, and this is for you, Mark, and Patrick, just a little history that I was told. I didn't experience myself, so realize there's probably parts to it that I'm going to mess up. But FairTV, and Jerry, knows more about this, but for another day, FairTV, the ordinance locks it into what it's doing now, which is pretty specific. But the idea was, hey, if we can get the ordinance to be changed to allow for some sort of educational content, paid content, that kind of stuff. It'd have to be relatively narrow in that, nobody wants, the worry, I believe, if I understand correctly, is that somebody's going to come along and pay for some sort of political ad to run on FairTV, and that's going to be not okay, which is fine. But, to have some sort of ad where, maybe a local company comes along and they say, hey, they sponsor, a little, program for the museum, and then the local museum is a production put on by FairTV, and it can get some students involved or this or that, and people can learn and have fun, and it becomes a cool program on FairTV, and it supports itself somehow so that it doesn't tap into funding that's intended to cover meetings and so on. So that's another discussion that I'd love to get into, but yeah.
The ordinance limits the participation by local elected officials. They cannot appear in ancillary content. In other words, they can't make a story about road paving, because they're an elected official. However, like PBS, we can have sponsors. We could do the same kind of sponsor pitch that they do on PBS. It's like, this program has been brought to you by Fred's Garage, and we sponsor FairTV, and that's it. No nothing else. No nothing else. No phone numbers, no get a free oil change, nothing. But we can do that. And we can make content that doesn't involve political participation. Like I said, years ago, I did a thing with Kim Fawcett. She interviewed people in the town, town government. She interviewed Republicans. She interviewed Democrats. She interviewed the fire police. She did a thing on fire safety with the kids. All good stuff. Balanced. I mean it. She never really drifted. And also we did a I did a thing with an RTM member in regards to the tree warden. I needed a narrator and somebody to handle an interview. I didn't even put his name on screen, and he never mentioned any affiliation with anybody or anything. But it was interesting. I had this autistic kid who worked in town hall. He was the camera guy. It was great. So it was sort of like a double kind of thing. I was working with the handicapped. I was trying to highlight a town department. It looked good. I mean, it was pretty good for, FairTV. And, in the rudimentary structure we had at the time, but they wouldn't let me run it because Jay was a member of the RTM. And so there are things that prevent us from doing it, but there are things that don't prevent us from doing it. And so we can do it as long as it's within those parameters. And that's all there is about that.
That's all I have to say about it's like a box of chocolates. Listen, I mean, from the moment I set foot in FairTV, that's what I wanted to see happen. And
yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, like it's tough to get it through the RTM because I don't really understand fully why, but it is. And
no,
I would love to
stop us from this. This isn't in the ordinance. The ordinance does not limit this. The ordinance.
Yeah, but I mean, but still, like, I mean, I just like the funding piece is the part, right? Isn't that the key ingredient?
Again, like I say, at the moment, if we don't get too many extra meetings during budget time or whatever, I've got a little room in the budget, to make a couple of these things to get pilots, so to speak. And and that's really, it's like, I mean, ultimately, this thing I did with Monday night falls into this category,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There you go. I mean, like you said, that's shot. But again, it is another conversation. I'm not going to do it tomorrow. If Anthony comes back to me with an idea, I will bring it to the commission. If the commission feels they want to dip their toe in, fine. If not, we don't go. That's all.
Yep. Cool. I mean, I like the idea of doing educational content. That is just, I think that it would be awesome, and I think then in time there'd be a library of stuff, and when the month rolled around and you were looking for like, well, what are we going to play on FairTV this week or month? You can keep run these things over and over again.
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I think that would be the first time when I first was introduced to FairTV, I didn't know what FairTV was, and so I went to the FairTV channel and I saw slides going by, and I was like, okay, like I understand, there might not be content, but I'm not going to watch slides on TV. It's not going to happen. So I might watch something if there's something about a local thing in town,
Well, I mean, I do run, like I said, I covered the Little League when they went off to the World Series and came back, and I covered a cappella events.
That stuff is the best. I mean, that stuff is like, I know the meetings are the primary focus, but like every spare moment, I would love to see that kind of stuff happening.
I'm going to put it simply. That's what makes community, and that's all.
Hey Jerry, are you able to provide some sort of input on how much watching of the material that goes out on FairTV, anything and everything, like The
only thing I can do, the cable companies will not give me any information on viewership. They consider it proprietary. However, on the VOD side,
they don't have a clue what it is. That's why.
Yeah, well, it's all in the business. For them, public access. They do it. They write it off every year, whatever they give to various public access entities. They have been upgrading it a little bit. I have to admit they did a little bit down at Cablevision with better audio, Twitch, and, we had this terrible thing forever where we had ghosting. It was some channel down in Greenwich or something that you would hear under all our meetings. It was for years. I mean, I called all the time. oh, no, I don't hear it. And finally, I put enough fire under them, and then other towns started happening to them. And it was, just some switch in the 8 gazillion miles of fiber they got out there or whatever that was cross-feeding, who knows, whatever. But they did resolve it about 2 years ago. So, but as far as, like, praying to the gods for an HD bandwidth, forget about it. They're not going to do that at all, at least not at the moment, because that's their money, HD. And here in America, unlike Europe, where they give it away, I mean, HD is like Niagara Falls over there. Here, bandwidth, rather, 5G or whatever. Here it's like doled out, mysteriously by the FCC or whatever. So, and also, like I say, it's money for, if the FCC would give the cable companies more latitude, we could probably have HD. Now, I was in a conversation with Frontier, and for $20,000, we could upgrade our gear in-house that we use to send to them and transmit HD with them. But we got to buy new gear. And our gear is getting, my next PEG-PISA grant application is going to be to buy that specific equipment. But they've halted that program. The PEG-PISA is a state-funded program that takes, I think, 0.1% of the revenue off the top from all the cable companies in the state. They get about $6-8 million a year in it. But it's like Social Security. They spend it on other things. But in any case, last year we got in under the wire, and we were able to get our almost $90K to do our hub upgrade this year, this past year. So I'm just waiting for when they announce that they're going to be doing it again. And that will be my primary ask to get, to upgrade the Frontier gear. The reason why it's expensive is not the hardware, but they have to do a line thing all the way to wherever it is locally to upgrade the service and also make money on it. But, I'm hoping that that'll happen soon. And like I say, if it does, at the very latest, if it comes up, it usually comes up in the fall, I can send out a grant. I got everything ready. To do that. Of course, you guys have to agree to it, but I don't think it's a bad thing if we're going out HD all the way on one of our networks.
I think any time that there's a grant available that doesn't require us to put change our color of our hair or something, we should try to get it to enhance what we're doing.
Yeah, there's really only 2 basic grants available to PEG access. I mean, I can go around looking for $500 here, $1,000 here, but but with the Cable Advisory Council grant, we can usually get at least $25K a year as long as that holds up. And with the PEG-PISA grant, you can ask for as much as $150,000, and that does real work. And I don't want to buy stuff I don't need, so I'm not just going to make a list that totals up to 150, but I do want to get what we need. And unfortunately, with the Cable Advisory Council grant, I can't get the sincere equipment because we get all our money from Cablevision. Frontier, the third-party provider, better known as SoundView, keeps all of that money. And they don't distribute that to the PEGs that they were by court order and law ordered to do. There's a whole big story there, and we don't have the time for it now. But SoundView Community Media is nothing of that order. They get about $1 million a year. It took us almost 10 years to get $100,000 parceled out to support what we do, which is called town specific, because we narrowcast. They prefer a regional format, which is ridiculous when you got 6 towns. And really, it's just a device to keep most of the money. And they probably end up every year with about, depending on cable subscriptions, they probably bring in $1 million a year, of which they give $100,000 to 4 towns of the 6. And that was, like I say, only by law and court order. We had to take it all the way to the Connecticut Superior Court. And I'll send you, I will be happy to send anybody the judge's adjudication on that. It's 70 pages, and every page, there isn't one page, and I mean it, not one page, that doesn't excoriate value. And thanks for letting me vent.
All right. Well, listen, everyone. I think action items for the moment are just to wait to see what the town wants to do. Is that accurate, Jerry?
Yeah, I'd say that. Really, if you can tune in, I'll try to email somebody when I see it's coming up, and maybe somebody can jump in. But, I don't always get that opportunity, especially if they're calling on me to talk, And my position will be exactly what you just iterated, is that we're here to work with the town and configure with whatever comes up in relation to the 5 meetings we have. And if it's expanded, looking at in relation to the capability, or if the town wants to enlighten, expand our and they're not against that. I don't think they'd be against it.
Well, does that work for everybody? If Jerry, if it comes up and Jerry, says something along those lines?
Absolutely.
I think that makes sense.
All right, cool.
But
listen, I think if you know a meeting's happening, please email all of us, because hopefully one of us can come. If there's one where they're going to get specific and where it's not a marathon and where we actually know that we're on the agenda or we have a time slot or whatever, help us identify that. You probably know more about the meetings than anybody. So,
like for the budget meetings, they will reach out to you and ask you to be present if they want you to be. Otherwise, I don't know.
Okay.
But I will definitely get, when it gets close, I'll have an email in my drafts, and I'll just push the button.
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks, Gary.
That's Square's due business, leading us to public comment, of which I gather there isn't any at the moment.
Anybody on the
call? Good of the order I looked up, because as I typed it in and somebody asked last time what it was, everything we just went over was pretty much good of the order. Things that should be discussed outside of official motions and votes effectively.
One of the previous chairmen brought that into play. Usually people just go vote for adjournment.
Well, that's right. Item number 9.
Well, in that case, if there's any, okay, I'll let you kind of run it down. Sorry, Patrick.
No, that's fine. Item number 9, without anything else. I'll defer to Alex as chairman just to wrap for us.
All right. Well, if there is no other business, so last opportunity, I will adjourn the meeting. So I guess I make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Alex, nice job. Jerry, thanks for your insight. And Mark, thanks for joining the call. I'll get the minutes out and the draft to town clerk. Right, Alex?
That's how it works.
So you'll get the approved minutes to town clerk.
Right.
And that's it for now. Copy everybody on it, please.
Excellent. You got it.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Night all.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.